All right, welcome everyone. So we maxed out our YouTube limit right off the bat here. We haven't done that, but so if any of your fellow teammates are trying to get in, check out the SAE SoCal YouTube channel because it'll just be broadcast live there as well. Welcome, and I'm Chris Bachman. I'm the vice chair for the SAE SoCal board and the faculty advisor for the Baja and Formula teams at Cal State LA, and happy to have you here for the SAE SoCal Student Activities webinar on maximizing your performance in the design event, which is, as many of you know, coming up this week for Baja and the week after for Formula. And yeah, it looks like the validation events will be happening, at least for the West Coast teams in the US, and Vegas for Formula and Tucson for Baja. So that's exciting, especially if your teams were able to build a little bit, unlike mine. But so today we're just going to begin with a short presentation, and then we're going to follow up by answering your questions, including those that were pre-submitted and those that you can ask today. And a little shout out to Nevada Chauvin from Cal Poly Pomona Formula for getting some good questions in early. Omkar from Swansea University from Formula Student UK. Noah Stein from UC Irvine Formula, and Dalton from San Diego State, their Baja team. So I like the Southern California representation. So if you have any other questions you'd like to ask, please put them in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to have them answered during the Q&A portion of the webinar. Don't use the chat because it's a little bit harder to track the questions there. And with that, I think those are just kind of some of the things to be aware of. And I will want to introduce our speaker, who many of you, I'm sure, know from the design event, from the paddocks, from online, and from using his Optimum G software. So Mr. Claude Rouelle. To give you a little of his background, Claude is well known in motorsports and Formula Student through his company Optimum G, recorded lectures, and through volunteering internationally at numerous Formula Student events. I don't know if anybody tracks it, but Claude might hold the record for the most design events participated in out of anyone in the world. I'm not sure about that, but I would trouble anyone to challenge the number he's been in. Claude graduated with his master's in mechanical engineering in 1978 from the Institute, I'm sure I'm going to say this bad, Gramme in Belgium. If he doesn't tell today, if you see him, you'll have to ask him about his thesis. He's got a great story there. And give you a little bit about his background outside of being in the paddocks and design event. Claude Rouelle has served as a race engineer for Forsyth Racing, as the chief engineer for Bentonhouse Motorsports, Indy Regency Racing, John Martin Racing, and as the technical director, manager, and engineer on numerous other racing series from Indy to F1, starting all the way back in 1984. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Claude to speak a little bit about his tips for the design event, and then I'll ask him some questions, and we'll open it up to even more questions after that.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Chris, for your introduction. Thank you for organizing this. I have to say that I've been thinking about making a presentation about how to do a good design presentation for a while, but I keep delaying it, and I say, oh, it's a good idea, but it's not like I have only that to do. I have many things to do. So you create the opportunity, and in the last few days, I put a few tips and tricks formally in the next 9 slides of PowerPoint. The slides are not going to be fancy. I didn't put too many pictures and so on, but there are some very key points, 29 of them, that I want to explain. Yes, I am probably the guy who have attended the most Formula student because I've been a judge for more than 20 years, and the last Formula student event that I judged was in January 2020, before COVID hit us. And it was Formula Barat, and it was, for me, Formula student number 144. So I've seen a lot of good thing and a lot of bad thing in design, and so I have some experience that I would like to share with you. Okay, so let's dive into the topic. Number one, you must arrive on time. Whether it's a virtual or it is a real face-to-face, in-person design, be very careful about that. I remember a successful team, top 5 contender all the time, Canadian team, I guess you will know who it is. They show up, out of the 1 hour we gave them, they show up 15 minutes late for the presentation, for the design. And the guy looked at me and said, yeah, but we will do better and we will be on time for the final. I look at him and said, wait a moment, you're not in the final guaranteed, so you're going to have to be very careful about that. Usually, the reason why the guys are not on time is because they were long in line with tech or the car was not weighted. And then because they didn't pass tech because they were not prepared, and here's the crescendo, the delay is going to be accumulating. So the readiness is very important. Check ahead of time the place where the design ever will happen. I mean, do you have a space of 3 meter by 5 meter or 10 meter by 20 meter? Because you're going to have to practice, ideally, the installation of your material, and you have only a few minutes to get ready. What do I mean by your material? Obviously, the car, okay? Your team members. You would be very surprised. Sometimes, I remember in Michigan, you don't have a lot of space there. And so if you come with a car, your team, and some of the artifacts that you want to show, plus your team member, and your team member, are you 5 people or are you 20 people? At a certain time, it's going to be crowded, and you don't want the judges to walk on your car. You don't want them to step on your bodywork and things like that. So be careful about all the way the things are going to be displayed. The boards, very important. The boards. I will have a specific point about the boards, which are explaining the main aspect of your car design. A table. You're going to have a table there that need to be installed very quickly with your laptops, the binders with an S, the part new and broken. I think it's very useful to show things that broke when you were testing the car. Judges are not very different people. They like people who are smart, but they are people also who show their weakness. Said, we made a mistake in the design, look at this, and we learn from it. Usually that is well appreciated. So don't be afraid to show new parts, but also broken part, and point the finger of why the parts was broken. Your toolings, you could have special tools that you have created. Power for your laptop. Do you have enough power? Do you know where to power the cord? Do you have, if there is no power, do you do that on batteries? Are all your laptop very well charged? And the internet. Because here's the thing. A lot of students have a lot of good information on the Wikipedia stuff or wiki stuff. And suddenly they realize that, they don't have they don't have access to the database. So one judge is going to ask us a very specific question, and it's, oh yeah, and the guy opens his laptop and he sees that the intranet or the internet is not working for him. That is not a good thing. You need to have your laptop, by the way. The worst situation is that, can you show me? Because I'm the guy and many judges are, show me the money, okay? So, the laptop is in the truck. And you lose credibility and you lose valuable time doing that also. Dress code, okay? I remember many years ago, there was a guy who showed up in design, not neat, actually smelling bad. Didn't shower for a few days, I guess, very busy. Flip-flop, short, and T-shirt, greasy, and so on. And he looked at me and said, what do you want to know? I said, well, okay. This is not business presentation. You don't have to come with a suit and a tie and, shiny shoes, but I expect a little bit of formality there. So clean T-shirt and a clean pair of pants, You need to understand this. This is not very different than an interview. you will be judged, unfortunately, but that's the reality, on your appearances. People buy with their eyes first. I want to buy a car, and I know it has the best handling and the best engine and the best transmission and the best brake. And I go to the dealership, but and I take my wife with me, and if the bodywork, she doesn't like it, it's going to be a hard sale. People are buying with their eyes first. You have only one chance to make a good presentation. So try to have a clean shirt, clean pair of pants, ideally everybody having the same uniform. Very, very important. Remember this, guys. This is not going to be different than an interview for a job. When you're looking for a job, a first selection will be made on objective. Do you have that diploma? Are you that age? Can you speak that language? Okay. If you have all these things, you are selected. But the selection will be made on soft skill. And one of the soft skill is the quality of your presentation. So it's very important. Team identification. I have a problem there. A lot of people, they have a name for their team: accelerator team, elephant racing, lion racing, and so on. That's fine with me if you want to call a specific name. But you have to understand that this is an international competition, and you are going to have a team coming from, judges, coming from foreign country, and they're going to look at you and say, Lions team, who are you? I mean, we are, be careful about abbreviations. We are EESPSUT team. What the heck does that mean? Do you have still people who don't know what MIT is? Yeah, in the United States, you know, but sometimes people don't know. It goes the other way around. Let me tell you a funny story. The name of the car of TU, Technical University of Graz in Australia, is Tankia. Tankia 01, Tankia 02, Tankia 03. And why did they call it Tankia? Because they had American judge who didn't know where Austria was. So where are you from? Austria. Australia. No, Austria. Where is Austria? Then the burden no is on the judge. And they call their car Tankia because it means there are no kangaroo in Austria. But it's very important. I mean, first of all, what I suggest to do is this. Somewhere on your pit lane, somewhere on your garage, somewhere during your presentation, show a map of the world with a hard contour of the country you are from and a red point where your city is, number one. So use the university name and no abbreviation, then maybe the team name. So I want you to know which university you are from. What's your location? Are you American? Are you which state and where? Your logo, that's very interesting. People work with identification. And then it's always good to have a little, making a shirt just for that could be expensive, but putting a little label there with your name and suspension, brake, ergonomics, data acquisition, tire, composite, aerodynamic, and so on, so that the judge can find who you are and have a specific question from his specialty to use. Board and screen. I said I was going to speak about that. Okay, I'm going to take a student story which has nothing to do with vehicle dynamic or design judging. You are a guy and you are at the cafeteria and you notice this beautiful girl and you want to speak to her, or vice versa. And what you need to engage in a conversation is to have one thing in common. What do you mean by one thing in common? You are the supporter of the same football club. You went in vacation in the same city. You have the same friend. You love the same movie. You just have one thing to connect a hook. And then at that time, the conversation can start. You need to have something in common. It's the same kind of intellectual flirting, if I could say, that you're going to start to engage with the judges. Because the judges will want you to speak about something but they will not give you the exact question, because if they give you the exact question, they give you a part of the answer. So there is this dance where we're all running around. What you do is that you put your boards, and on your boards, you explain roll center movement, chassis torsion, stiffness, tire model. And of course, you are going to put on this board what you know the best. It's so important at the beginning, I have to tell you. That is your first communication, because when you put your stuff and you roll the car, the judges are going to look at your board and say, oh, look, he speak about anti-dive. I want to speak about it. Oh, he speak about brake pressure or brake friction coefficient, or he speak about downforce distribution, or he speak about gurney flap. Or, of course, you are going to invite the judge in your trap. In other words, in what you master the best. And of course, only show the knowledge and practice that you master. So this board is your first communication. It's very important. Sometimes it's too crowded. Sometimes it's too simple, but you need to have something. Be careful, by the way, about the board, how they stand, because sometimes you hit them and they fall. Sometimes you have winds. So be careful about the hardware and the stability. Be ready. Okay. There are some basic questions that you should be able to answer. Okay, example. I'm not going to be negative by mentioning which team. I ask a team, what's your wheelbase? And the guy looked at me and he said, the front on the rear. I said, no, wheelbase. And because I have a little bit of a French accent, I spelled WHEELBSE, wheelbase. And the guy looked at me and said, the front on the rear. I said, oh, no, that's not starting well. Okay. You need to be able to, there are some definition that you should know. Okay. I have published on FSA Formula Student a list of questions, at least on the vehicle dynamic, that I will ask you. If you cannot define control, stability, balance, and grip, and tell me in which unit you measure them, I have no idea if you understand vehicle dynamic. I have no idea if you don't understand vehicle dynamic basics, I have no idea how you design your car. The answer to this question are available free of charge on the internet. That's what is frustrating to me. It means that if you are not able to answer this very basic question, you didn't do the minimum indispensable research. There are some definitions you should know, as I said, control, stability, coefficient of friction, and so on. There are some numbers that you should know. Not by heart, but because you simply use these numbers so formula that they are familiar. So let me give you an example. Funny story. I asked a student one question. The guy take his binder and he turned the pages for like 30 seconds, 1 minute before he find it. And I took the binder out of his hand and I said, you have a girlfriend? The guy looked at me and said, yes. Do you know her phone number? I said, don't worry, I don't want to know her phone number, but do you know her phone number? I said, yes. I said, okay, good. Because if you tell me you have a girlfriend, but you don't remember her phone number, that means you are not really in love with her. Well, guess what? If you have to flip the page of your binder to find one specific number, means to me that you are not in love with your project. That is happening very often with what we call inherited design car. So the car was very good last year, you inherited from it and you didn't do your own research. There are some numbers like, in terms of vehicle dynamic, for example, what's your weight? What's your weight distribution? Where your front and rear roll centers are? How much caster do you have? How much downforce distribution? There's some, what's your track? What's your wheelbase? These are numbers that you have been malaxing, percolating, marinating them so often that you should know them by heart. And you shouldn't have to look in your binder. Have all the information open or quickly openable, okay? So, for example, I ask you, show me your CAD or show me your data acquisition. And the guy is starting to boot his laptop, open the software, which is 2 minutes stupidly lost. Binders with it, they should have labeled separators. So you have on a binder, you have one for aerodynamic, one for kinematics, one for ever. So you find your information very quickly. know in which binder and where in the binder each information is, of course. So laptop with all the software opened, okay, and know in the binder where each info is. That's a little bit of a repeat about that. Now to use the software. I'm not going to put the name here, but team. I said, who is the data guy here? Here is the data guy guru. And look at him and said, are you good? And you said, yes. What are you using? Motec i2, which is good software, by the way. One of the things is that it's free of charge anyway. And he wanted to straight away show me something very complicated. Said, can you zoom? Can you change the color? He couldn't do that. So the very basic he can do, but he wants to demonstrate the complicated one. So if you cannot use your CFD, your CAD, your data acquisition, your Excel spreadsheet, and so don't even bother. You're going to kill yourself there. Connection with the internet, team using Wikipedia, that's it. Clean car. Okay. Another experience. Formula student in Germany, we are speaking about like 15 years ago. A team from India came with a car. The car was purely executed. That's okay. Poor budget, poor experience, not access to a lot of lab and material. I can be very forgivable for that. But the car was dirty. The car was dirty. And I said, look, don't tell me that a clean rag and some soapy water is what's going to kill your budget. Where is your pride? Where is your self-esteem? I encourage you to take pictures of details of your car, and you will see how dirty it is. I had a racing driver who told me one day, Johnny Shekotto, by the way, he told me, I will not drive that car. I said, why? Because the car is not clean. I said, why? Because if it's not clean, if the guys, they have not cleaned the car, they maybe have not seen that there is a crack in an upright or in the chassis or whatever. So clean car is very, very important. The other thing is that it's good that you have your weight and you have passed technical inspection. Sometimes teams who didn't have the chance to go to weight, I asked them to come back and bring me not the whole car, but at least the nose where the stickers, so that I have a number there. Speaking about weight, that was not in the list there. Remind me. It is okay if you have a difference of a few kilo between the weight that you announced in your design report and the weight that you measured on the scale during the technical inspection. Usually the cars are always a little bit heavier, okay? But if you have 20 kilo of difference, that is a problem, because that means you were not good enough to predict what the car weight was going to be. Be ready to explain every single item of your EDR, engineering design report, and your design specification sheet. Example, I remember a team in Germany, I asked them, what's your critical damping? And the guy could not answer. Oh, okay, the guy's young, he looked young, maybe there's an English problem. So I asked another student, then a third one and a fourth one. And our fourth student who could not tell me what critical damping was, okay? I mean, I don't care, critical damping is square root 2 square root of K multiplied by M, or, it's just, I push on the car, when the car come back up as quickly as possible without any overshoot, that's critical damping. You give me a formal or informal information, I got it. Then I said, okay, I'm going to have a problem here. So I asked the technical manager and the technical director and the team director of the team, because, okay. And I said, okay, give me your design specifications. I said, wait a moment here. Look, guys, it's written here that in bump and in rebound, you have 54 and 62% of the critical damping. 54 and 62% of what? And that, again, this is the classical example of people who do not connect, have inherited a car from the previous year, didn't even read the engineering design report, recopy it. Be careful, guys. The judges have access to last year and the year before that engineering design report. And I have had 2 engineering reports where there was practically no difference. So that means that the guys didn't really sweat to get a little bit of information. So how it works now? Team introduction. First of all, let the judge leader welcome you. Hi guys, welcome to design event, blah, 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 30 seconds. Okay. You send a signal. Are we ready to go? Yeah, okay, go. So the judge will, the one key guys of the judge will tell you, welcome. You're gonna have to introduce your team and the school you are from, maximum 3 minutes. Okay, don't go too much into the details. So speak with volume, very important. You have a nice organ, use it, Speak with volume, especially it's going to be noisy. You could have race car on the track, like in England, time to time, or you can have other team making noise and so on. A lot of people speaking. So, when the judge is looking at you like this, it's a good sign that. Explain if you are a new team or not. How many cars have you done? I mean, a competition have you had? Speak about your success and your failure. Team size, how many active member? Okay. The rule of thumb is between a quarter and 1/3 of the people. In a team of 30 people, you usually have 10 people who are there early and late. So there are people who just like to wear the shirt of the team, but they're not really active. Then you explain the main ideas behind the car design. This year, we want to seriously decrease the weight. This year, we wanted to test the car much more. This year, we wanted to add downforce. This year, we wanted to design a better suspension kinematic. Last year, we had that problem, and the goal was to fix it. Okay. Do not go into the detail, but quickly explain the why of your choice. We wanted to increase reliability because 2 years in a row, we didn't finish endurance. Okay, that's good enough. Present your team member. So John is going to speak about engine. This guy is going to speak about brake. This guy speak about data. This guy about suspension. So the judge said, okay, I want to speak to John, or I want to speak to Paul or Peter. Remember that you only have 3 minutes. Okay. All right. The other thing, why? Why is the number one question that you have to answer. You have to explain the reason of your decision. Some of the decision can be engineering, some engineering constraint, or simply constraint of time and budget. We are a small team, so we couldn't do everything. But you need to answer why. So you have rarely any wrong choice in Formula Student Car concept. You do 1 cylinder, 2 cylinder, 4 cylinder. You do 1 electrical motor, 2, 4, inboard, outboard, brakes inboard, wings, no wing, chassis in monocoque, composite material, or tubular chassis, 10-inch, 13-inch, 8-inch. There is no right or wrong answer, but there are definitely right and wrong explanation to justify your choice. You start with the why, then you start with the how, and then you start with the how much. So we choose to make a tubular chassis because we don't have experience, and we choose that steel because. So you explain what you choose, why you choose it, and then you try to qualify, and then qualification and quantification in your answer. I will come back on this. Give direct answer to direct question, and then the explanation. Example, how much caster do you have? 5 degree. I don't say it's right. I don't say it's wrong. Why do you choose 5 and not 4 or 6? And the guy started to go to a vehicle dynamic explanation, an academic course. No, don't swill around the pot. Give me a direct answer. I mean, if your weight distribution, how much is your weight distribution? 48% on the front. Why? The weight distribution is an influence on your. No. I want very clear, direct answer. You need to have a tough skin. It's going to be like an interview on your job. Some judge, like me, are not very welcoming necessarily. It's part of the show, I have to tell you. Keep your composure. Remember, control your emotion, okay? Some judge could be very argumentative, okay? I will ask you, oh yeah? And I agree with you, but I don't say it, you know? So remember, the judge your knowledge and your thought process. It's not judging you person, okay? Avoid the design judge trap. So for example, I'm gonna say, you have how much downforce distribution on the front? I don't know, 42%. Yeah? And you think it's a good idea? I think it's a good idea, but I will present the things like you are wrong. So you're going to have to be very strong about the way you defend your case. Do not argue with a design judge. I mean, the design judge could be wrong. I be wrong, not very often, but I be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will tell you and I will apologize. I will make even a public statement if necessary. Maybe in the feedback session, but not in the design event. I have to tell you, it's rare, but it happened a few times where I misunderstood what the team wanted to tell me. During the feedback, they told me something that I better explain. I went back to the chief design judge and I said, I want to change my quote. Instead of giving a B minus, I want to give a A minus. They deserve more points, for example. So that's something that I do. That's rare, but okay. But do not start to argue. That's fine if you don't know the answer, just show it. People who try to escape and trying to give the wrong explanation there, you're gonna kill yourself there. That's a good question. I don't know, sir. I would like to know, and maybe you can tell me in the feedback, but for the moment, I don't know. That's it. Don't dig. The best way to get out of a hole is to stop digging, okay? So don't dig yourself in more trouble than you are. Do not ask questions, answer them. You are not there to ask questions to a judge. He's the one asking them. During the feedback, yes, but not during the design event. Do not be a victim. I keep saying, guys, in life, in racing, and in Formula Student, you have two kinds of people. People who are winning and people who are losing. People are winning and people who are making excuse. Tell me which category of people you want to belong to. For example, not enough time, not enough money. Don't say that. You present yourself a victim, okay? Worse, exposing your team division. You know, do not reveal during the design problem that you're in. Do not take excuse. Yeah, but the team is disorganized, or the team leader is not a very good leader. It's possible. But don't show your weakness. Don't lie, but don't expose your weakness. If you need a shoulder to cry with a judge, you can do that during the feedback. Or you can find a judge in the paddock and said, I need your help here, including on team organization and communication. But don't do that during the team. Never say we did not have the time. You just say we didn't take the time and the reason here. When you say we didn't have the time, you introduce yourself as a victim. When you say we didn't take the time, yes, we have many things we wanted to do, but we only decided to do 5 or 6 things because these were realizable. They were possibly achievable. The rest, it's part of our dream list. I will say a word about that later. But we did not take the time. Show leadership, show ownership, show that you are owning your project. What is your dream list? Example. Many years ago, I judged Delft team, good team. And I was picky. I was like, you don't have this and you don't have that and so on. And the guy, I was pretty aggressive. You don't have this, you don't have that. And the guy said, okay, he kept his composure. And he said, come with me. And he took a binder And he looked at the first page, he said, this is the 65 things that we want to do in the next 5 years. And because we are limited in budget, education, blah, 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 these are the 12 things that we decided to do this year. And the 12 things here, you will find them on the card. But the dream list is that. I mean, we're going to speak about documentation that's from the past, and especially knowledge transfer, but you need to have project for the next year after that. A team will ask you that. What's your long-term goal? This year and next year priorities. This is not a presentation. Yeah. I have had people who came with a binder and they were turning the PowerPoint slide one by one, and I look at the things like 50. I said, wait a moment here, I have questions for you, you know? I mean, you answer the question, and if necessary, you show specific graph or PowerPoint slide, but you don't, this is not an academic course, okay? Formula Student is not motorsport. I want to insist on that. It's a design and a project competition, project management competition, which is based on race car, but it's not motorsport. So yeah, Formula One does this or Le Mans does that. It's not really a good argument. If you fail and fail again, go to answer judge questions. What do you do that? Let me tell you a story. There was a team, I remember I judged the guy miserably answer. I asked 6 questions in a row and he was not doing well. But you know what? The guys took ownership and he said, I'm not doing well with you. Huh? I said, no. Can I show you 3 things on the card that we are proud of? I said, yes. You won't find a judge who are going to refuse that. We're not there to crucify and massacre the students. They massacre themselves most of the time. I said, yeah, sure. And, you know, they were not material for the final, but, you know, they got I don't remember the point, but instead of a 30 out of 150, they went to an 80. So, I mean, take ownership. You can lead to a certain extent the interview. You can take command of the conversation, especially if you are not doing well. I'm not doing well with you, but can I show you 1 or 2 things our team is proud of? Okay. Most of the time, the judge will listen to you. Be prepared to answer this simple question. Show me 3 things you like about this car and 3 things you would do differently if you do it, if you could do it again. Believe me, it's a very good question that I ask, and very often ask that at the end of design, and I learn a lot of things there. Another way the judge will ask you is, tell me something I don't know. Tell me something that you want to discuss. And if the judge doesn't ask you that question, kind of impose yourself, you know, show him the good things that you have. Don't let him destroy you. And why, of course, why, you remember that's the typical question. Why there are 3 things that you like, 3 things that you would change. Be aware of the danger of over-specialization. What I'm trying to say is this. Okay, let's take the example design final. There was a question like that. When we do design final, we do one thing. I personally have 5 questions. And to be fair, I will ask exactly the same 5 questions to all the team who are in final, so I can make the most equitable, the most fair comparison. So I have one specific vehicle dynamic question. So I come and said, where is your vehicle dynamic guy? He's busy with another judge. Okay, I will come back later. Come back later, he's still busy with the same judge or another judge. And I see the time running and said, no, I'm not gonna have the time to ask that question. So I said, do you have another guy who is good in vehicle dynamic? A B guy who can answer, let's say, 80% of my question? No, that is a bad sign. There must be more than one student who should be able to answer a few given questions in a given discipline. If not, that is usually one sign of poor common knowledge. If you have only one vehicle guy, dynamic guy, one brake guy who can answer that question, not a good sign. So you need to have shared knowledge. All right. All simulations are wrong. Some are useful. So you are not competing in a simulation software competition. Let me explain to you. Germany, a few years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. The guy became a design judge, by the way, Canadian team. He showed me a virtual 7-post-rig simulation, which was to die for. It was, I'm not kidding you, Formula One level. I was very impressed, and the guy took me through an intellectual / emotional roller coaster because I was so impressed. And then I look at my research. Wait a moment. I have a few more questions about Ackermann and weight distribution and roll stiffness and so on. But let me ask you a simple question. Can you tell me how you showed, how you use that magical 7-post rig to decide your car spring, anti-roll bar, and damper? And the guy killed me at that time because he said, I didn't have the time. I said, if it was a software competition, I would give you an 18 out of 20. Okay, with me, by the way, 18 is the maximum I can give you. Why? Because 18 is the maximum that you're going to get from me, because 19, that's me, and 20, it's God. But I cannot give you good points because this is not a software competition. If it was a software competition, you would score very high. So you need to have some relevance in the work you are doing. What makes a simulation useful is validation. You can use Ricardo, you can use Optimum Kinematic, you can use Adams, you can use whatever you want until that is proven on the track. It's just an academic exercise, and you are not going to be very relevant and very demonstrative. That is the reason why, that's another chapter. We're not speaking about that, we're speaking about design, but you must have half of the time of your design, your project, which is about testing, so that you can validate your simulation. Judges are interested in simulation validation. My chassis torsion stiffness is that much. How did you do that? FEA, yeah. Did you validate that? Did you build a little chassis torsion stiffness rig? No. How sure are you that the numbers that you have from your simulations are correct? We are not. We're not going to go far with that, guys. Remember that if the two numbers are not the same, two number is simulation on one side and data on the other. If the numbers are not the same, at least one of them is wrong. I mean, is there a problem of calibration of your sensor, or is that a problem of algorithm in your simulation? You know, or both. And it's not because the two numbers are the same that the results are correct, by the way. Okay, you can be precisely wrong. Judge do evaluate much more what you have between your ears than what you have between, that the car is between its wheels. So yes, I spoke about presentation, about having a clean car. Yes, good presentation play a role, and at equal knowledge, your presentation could make the difference. But you know, you have team with big budget, they do subcontracting, and that's questionable, but in some cases acceptable. But if they don't know why the car is designed the way it is, then it's not good, I can tell you. Because Stuttgart or Munich or Delft or Michigan is doing it that way, that is not a valid argument. What is good for team A is not necessarily good from team B. I mean, don't come with this thing. Well, but that car is heavy and they want acceleration. I said, yeah, I'm not judging that car. I'm judging your car here. You know, some of the question judge will ask himself, if we consider your car go in the final, show me your internal engineering design report. Okay, what I mean is that their team there, they have on the table 10 binders, and each binder is 2010, 2011, 2012. What do I want in this in a design report? Don't do this, it doesn't work. If we try to do this, we didn't have enough time. I think it's worth to do it, but if you do it, I advise you to do it this way. So what you learned from the past should be that this knowledge transfer must be written. It cannot be phone call, and Zoom meeting with your alumni. You must leave a trace. So show me your international. Another one is this. It's a little bit intuitive. If I wanted to drive Formula Student car, would I like to drive that car? And if I wanted to buy a Formula Student car, would I buy that car? And they're not the same. I'm going to tell you, there are some cars that I know it will be fun to drive, and I would fun, but I would not buy it because they would be very expensive, very difficult to maintain. When I see the wiring loom going totally exposed to rain and things like that, that car is going to fall apart very quickly. I will not buy it, but I would drive it because it could be fast. So obviously you want a yes and a yes on the last two questions there. I need to make I have two more things to tell you. I need to tell you a story about a way you can define yourself and the ownership. There was a team from Australia in 2004, University of Western Australia. They came, one of the first team which came to the United States with a composite material, a monocoque. And so I loved the monocoque. It was really beautifully designed. But I told you I was argumentative. So I said, look, if you remember that the Spirit is, that car is for amateur racing, okay? I said, look, the car is beautifully designed, but it's going to be expensive. And I can tell you that if I have a crash and a tubular chassis with a welder, a few spare tubes, and a few good friends, I can repair my car during Saturday night to a Sunday morning, and I can race. If I broke that car on the circuit, I will not race the next day. And the student, chief engineer, by the way, he looked at me. The guy became a teacher in vehicle dynamics and design in an Australian university. The guy looked at me and he said, yes, but you know what? You have 14 races in this championship and you're going to crash twice the car. But you know what? That car is so good that the 12th other race, you're going to win it. So now you make your choice. Whoa! The guy had guts. He said, no, you make your, he put the ball back in my camp. I can maybe disagree slightly, but the guy was impressive. So you need to have ownership, you know, and defend your case with good argument. All right, last two things. Very important. Practice design, practice design, practice, practice. What do I mean by that? Rehearse your presentation. Do it in a classroom and use one of your professor or alumnus or to be the judge of a fake presentation. So your faculty advisor or an alumni will ask you, will play the design judge, okay? It's good to have a non-engineering observer. When possible, a marketing or a communication teacher. She or he will analyze your body language, your tone of the voice, and so on. And we will do remark for that. And he or she will give you good advice for that. Video your own presentation training, and you are not going to like it. You know, when you leave a message on an answering machine or your own cell phone and you listen to yourself, I don't like myself. But when you're going to look at self, especially, well, when you look at yourself, that's going to be embarrassing. But you know what? You cannot solve a problem until you know you have one. So I strictly encourage you to video your presentation with a timing. You remember you have 3 minutes to be ready. You need to come with an answer very quickly. So practice. Look, you would not put your worst driver in the car for the endurance, correct? Okay. So you're not going to put your worst presenter for the design. You should be able to know who your best presenter is. And you are not going to know that unless you have practice. Same thing, you should have done 6-7 endurance minimum before going to the real endurance in practice. You should have done at least 3 rehearsal of your design presentation. The other thing I want you to, there is a little mistake, it's confidence. I don't judge on appearance too much. You have to be careful with that. This is not a competition for lawyers, okay? It's a presentation. But I've noticed one thing for so many years at design judging. Even the shy guys, because you have people who are introverted, people who are more outspoken, when you have acquired the right to speak about what you're speaking about, you speak with enthusiasm. There are some of the teams that, oh, no, stop, I have another question. Yeah, but I want to show you something on the car. But the problem is that that confidence comes from training, knowledge. So the confidence is based on knowledge and successful practice. Show that you have acquired the right to speak about what you say that you know. And then ask for feedback. That is after design presentation. That's the moment you are going to learn the most. Because when the judge are giving you feedback, I call that free of charge consulting. You can learn a lot of things from the judge. The stress is gone. It's no more like a design or a job interview. The points have been given. You have nothing to lose at that time. Beg for the judge to visit your car. Let them point with a finger. Let them tell us what we should have done better. Don't be afraid to ask that. And then, of course, make note and share them with the rest of the team. And of course, build on their success and on that knowledge. Okay. And voila, ladies and gentlemen, these are my 29 little advice here. Thank you for your attention. We took nearly, I thought it was going to be 30 minutes, but I think it was worth. And thank you. And I'm sure that you must have questions now.
All right, I'll filter in some of the questions, Claude. I'd be remiss too. So I know we say sometimes like him and guys a lot because we've not had a lot of women in formula student, but I really find the best teams of students and even the best teams of design judges are really diverse and getting talent from a wide pool. I think would you probably agree that really we should be getting more women in their design events and in the design judging to really perform at the highest level.
Absolutely. Look. There is a lady working in our company. She's not an engineer. She's the lady in charge of all the organization, training, travel, and all things like that. And but if I hired somebody, I will have her interviewing that guy, because she will notice women have this sixth sense that the boys do not have, and diversity is making skills, and diversity, different experience. Of course, different gender and so on. Now, let me tell you a little advantage to have a few girls in the team. Suddenly, the guys show up in the morning, they shaved and they took a shower. But more precisely, yes, absolutely. By the way, let me tell you, nothing to do with design judging. Very often, when I teach a seminar, I don't stay on stage. I walk in the thing. And I see what the ladies, the girls are doing, the way they take notes. I remember it was a lady who took notes of everything I said was written in calligraphy. I said, how does she do it? I was jealous. They have a faculty of organization. The boys are, I understand, yeah, I know. And then when the question comes, they don't have it. The girls are usually more disciplined, there are more details, and they contribute a lot to the engineering. So I am 100% with you. We need more ladies in engineering, not only formula student, in everything. So I'm 100%, definitely.
All right, let's get to I think one of the more interesting questions students will have. How much variability is there within the judges in terms of what they're looking for, how they conduct the event, and how they are scored?
Yes. Okay. I like that question because it's. I agree with you that design judging is. Okay, I'm going to take a little tangent to answer that question. We have had the conversation with many formula student organizers, with faculty advisors, with students, with other judges about, we were thinking that we should be given more importance to the why. In other words, we should be given more than 150 points out of the 1,000 for the design event. Because you know what, guys? You can have, if you have a reliable and performant car, and especially two good drivers, you can win formula student. and scoring poorly in design. But the faculty advisor was saying, and they were right, yeah, but the lap time is the number which never which never lie. So these are objective numbers where the design could be quite subjective. And yes, there is a danger that it is subjective. In the design final, there is very little subjectivity because each judge will ask exactly the same question to each of the team. Okay, that's number one. And I agree that you have line A with judges who are very demanding and line B with judges who are more lenient, and therefore you could have an unfair. That being said, you cannot attend this thing, but let me tell you the debate that we have between the judges. So after design event, we go somewhere for a pizza. We have a quick pizza and a drink and blah, blah, blah. And then we go together and say, okay, let's decide who goes in the final. And each team explain which team they think should be in the final. So there are some like, okay, the guy judge, he scored 135 points, 150. That's not a question. The guy goes in the final. Okay. But then you should see the argument that exists between the different judges. You're going to have a judge of line C asking line A, you want to speak these people in the final? Were they able to answer that question? You would be surprised. You have heated debate between the judges. Usually, we prefer to take the risk to send a team in the final and say later that car didn't belong there, than to walk in the paddock, speak with a team, analyze the car, and wonder why. Why is that car not in the final? So yes, there is danger of subjectivity. One of the things that most of the organized do very well is that they know the judges, they mix the judges very well, they know the judges are more demanding and more lenient. They try to make a good composite of their experience and the discipline. And I have to tell you, you would be extremely surprised about the standard deviation, at least for the final. What I'm trying to say is that you are going to have, let's say, I'm going to put a number, 10 teams in the finals, and you are going to have really a judge giving that team number one in vehicle dynamic, and another judge giving for the same team a number 10 in vehicle dynamics. The standard deviation is usually very, very small. So that means that we are not perfect. We are like students. We are like human beings. But believe me, we are very argumentative. We are very conscious. We have a kind of moral obligation to make sure that a team deserve good points. And is it perfect? No. I don't have had a lot of regrets because if I had regret, I made my quote, my number change. But in most of the time, despite the disparity of the judge and the 12 lines of judge, each of them 6 or 7 judge, the process is relatively fair. That's all what I can tell you. I cannot prove that unless you would record the heated arguments that the judges have between themselves. But I can tell you, I think there is a good level of fairness there. That there is no partisanship for one team more than another.
Well answered. So we have a couple different questions kind of around the same topic of, what should they be doing differently because of it's virtual, and even some things down to specific as it looks like maybe Formula Student Germany, maybe their design event is also in person. They're saying they're only allowed 10 people. So is there a kind of a good way to, you mentioned earlier about having multiple people being able to answer the same questions. How do they do that with more of a limited number? So
well, yeah, that's you have a limited number of people who can be around the car, but they don't need to be the same people. So I asked a specific question about brake coefficient of friction. The guy said, "Oh, this guy, the guy who's like 3 meters away there as a spectator, he knows." I said, "Let him come in." And to be honest with you, you have to be careful. If they admit 5 people around the car, you cannot have 15. But if there's 6 or 7, they are not going to kill you for that. They are not very, very observing or enforcing that thing. And and if a chief design judge come to me and said, you're not supposed to have them people, I said, I need a 2 to have the answer to my question. It will be accepted. So first of all, you can bring people, you can replace, like in hockey or soccer, you can get a guy out of the field and put a new one. That's number one. The other question was about difference between virtual and in person. You know what? Have you a laptop ready? Have you practiced? Can you switch screen? Do you know how to bring? How long do you have to look for a document? When a judge said, you calculated, show me the money. If the guy is taking 2 minutes to find the information on his laptop, it's the same problem as the guy who's turning the page in his binder to find the solution. You need to be ready, and you can only be ready if you have been being prepared. I don't see any big difference there. And by the way, presentation, having the same logo, having the same background, and it's not because it's virtual that you don't have to be dressed,
Gotcha. Awesome. So let's go to maybe one of the first things the design judges see about a team. And maybe you can even explain what they're used for a little bit, but what does a judge mainly look for in the design report? And what tips do you have for a team that doesn't do too well in the design report? And maybe how are they even used by the design judges?
Okay. I'm glad that you asked that question, because it should have been one of the tips and tricks that I've been writing there. Okay. Let me tell you what I don't see, unfortunately, too often. First of all, okay. I religiously read every single design report. And when I know who is going to be in the final, I also read the design report of people. And I'm going to underline or highlight some specific number, and I'm going to write, show me this. How did you calculate that? So number one, you need to have a logo. I'm not kidding you. You have people who are making design report they don't say who they are. I mean, you don't even know which university it is. It's not on the logo, the team and so on. Drawings with no quotation, dimension. There are people who throw a picture of the car. You don't know what's the wheelbase. A good engineering design report, height, track, wheelbase, showing and little. Every year in Michigan, you have the top 10 engineering report and drawing, and that should be given. Another thing, don't give me an academic answer. Like, for example, the kinematic of the suspension has been optimized to get the best of the tire. Duh. Seriously, we were looking for minimizing drag and maximizing downforce. Duh. We were looking for the best compromise between chassis torsion, stiffness, and weight. Duh. Don't tell me things which are obvious. Give me numbers. We increased the chassis torsion stiffness by 13%. And the advantage of that is that on ISO test in vehicle dynamic, we saw that increasing the chassis torsion stiffness was going to increase the weight much more than the performance. Okay, so we start losing more on the weight than we gain on the chassis torsion stiffness. Show me the money, show me the explanation. Don't give me numbers. The ideal camber is 1 degree. Okay, why? Where is it written? Where did you find it? So design report, mistake I see. You have a different answer on page about the weight distribution or chassis torsion stiffness in page 2 and in page 5. They contradict themselves, Design report, which has been a copycat of what you had in the previous year. That is a killer. It looks like you don't care. So logo, engineering design report with dimension, sensible explanation, not academic stuff. numbers, variation, the weight was decreased by that much and so on, and validation. You do Ricardo, which is a very good software for combustion engine, and then what? Did you put the bloody engine on the engine dyno? Okay. The car produced so much downforce. Okay. Did you put strain gauge on the push rod and drive the car at constant speed to validate that? Okay. And it's fine. It is fine if the numbers are different between your simulation and the validation, providing you can explain why. There's nothing about being wrong, providing that you understand why you were wrong and what you need to do next time to improve. Remember, it's an engineering competition. It's not motorsport. The problem is that sometimes the numbers that are on your board or in the binder that the students are flipping and they are in the design report are not the same. And the reason for that is that you have to sign your design report, I don't remember, like 6 weeks before your competition. And between that time, you improve the car and you change the chassis torsion, you put different spring. That's fine, but you need to have an explanation for that. Okay, and the killer is when your weight of the car is 20 kilo different in reality than what you predicted. That means you don't have a good prediction tool there. I don't know if I answered all the questions.
And then, is there like, are they used at all? I mean, it's a first impression. So maybe talk about, is it, how important is it as a first impression, because it probably affects their just overall design event score. And then also, is it used for anything, for putting the teams in different queues or ordering the teams, anything like that?
Yeah, well, it depends the competition. In UK, you must have a certain portion of the 150 point are on the design report itself. Every competition is different. I think the design report is an invitation. To be honest with you, I need a design report. I said, that's going to be a crappy design event. And most of the time I'm right, unfortunately. This is fun. These people are very interesting. I have a lot of hot questions for them. That is a good sign. Basically, it's like a business card. It's an introduction of who you are and how you calculated thing. And if your design report is good, it will help me to dive straight away in more sophisticated and complicated than basic questions, which is only a good thing for you.
Nice. So we also had a lot of questions about, you've mentioned validation a lot. So I think you've partially answered this, but and also in terms of, there's going to be some teams that don't have validation because they weren't able to get into their labs or with their cars this year. Maybe you can give, a tactic for them, and then also maybe like, give an example of like, here's an area where this is the validation the best teams are doing. This is the type of validation medium teams and maybe the worst teams in the lower end aren't doing any validation. But it sounds like there's a lot of interest about some specifics about that.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody can blame the students if they did not have access to the lab or to their car because of the COVID-19 situation. That's the way of life, at least for the moment, and nobody can be demeaning. No judge will be demeaning about that. But on the other hand, that means that it gives the time with concerted and organized effort between the students to make some more study into simulation. And whether you speak about weight, mass, suspension, aerodynamic, power, and so on, I have to tell you, contrarily to what the people think, lap time simulation is the last thing you should be doing. There is optimum lap. Okay, it's not advertising because the software is free of charge. And there are some other good software that that exist on the market, also free of charge, that kids have put their MATLAB stuff and so on. And by the way, can I make something here? Yeah, okay, I have an Optimum G logo here. I will not give more points to the people who are using an Optimum G software or not. Actually, I will give more points to people who develop their own software. Okay. So because when you develop your own software, you understand better. Very often, unfortunately, simulation is used like a black box. Okay, oh, look, I put a stiffer front end to your bar. Oh, my lap time showed the car is quicker. Do you know why? No. That is not a good sign. So before lap time is effectively the last answer. There is optimum lap, which help you in the concept phase to tell you the how can I say that, the compromise between mass, power, drag, downforce, and grip. Okay, you have all the TTC data, which help you to make a decision about, do you want the Hoosier, the Goodyear, which Hoosier do you want, blah blah blah, and so on. There is software that OptimG does. I'm not here to do advertising for that. There are many good software. But in terms of vehicle dynamic, I'm going to tell, simply, before you do bloody lap time, can you make an acceleration software? Can you make a skid pad software? Because if you cannot make an acceleration or braking software or simple ISO test, turning the steering wheel, double lane change, constant speed, turn the steering wheel, and look at numbers, lateral acceleration response time, yaw velocity damping, all things like that. These are going to speak to you much more than a lap time simulation. Quarter car model, simply how do you optimize your spring and your damper? Just that. There are so many things that can be done, even if it's a virtual competition. We just gave an example a few minutes ago. What's the chassis torsion stiffness has on the handling? You cannot demonstrate the value of a higher chassis torsion stiffness unless you do a transient simulation. Because if your chassis is weak on a skid pad, when the car has taken a set, the chassis is too stiff on the rear, too soft on the rear, I will put stiffer spring. So patch on a patch, it's working in steady state. But in transient, that's where you're going to see the variation. And but not only the chassis torsion stiffness, but the chassis torsion stiffness variation. Because you can have 1,000 Newton meter per degree with a first half very stiff and a second half very soft, or swap the front and the rear, and you still have 1,000 Newton meter per degree. But I guarantee you that on the track, unless you change your anterior bar to kind of compensate, it's not going to be the same thing. This can be measured. Yes, you cannot validate your CFD with on-track testing, but can you tell me what is the best downforce distribution and why? Can you tell me, at least on the paper, it's better to run your tire at 10, 12, or 14 PSI? I can give you a list of questions of things that you can explore that could make you stronger the day we go back on the track, which, by the way, I'm praying that that's going to happen soon.
Awesome. So I'm sure I've been saving this one because a lot of people had this one too. The question was, this is from Cal Poly Pomona. We'd like to know from Claude what recommendations you would have for teams to present their suspension designs. Let's say this is partly in line with being online format and not being able to produce data, as well as in line with the cost to perform tests such as wheel force transducer testing to more accurately create simulations for suspension. So you've talked a little bit about the online portion, but maybe talk a little bit about, how would you present the suspension design?
Okay.
Or how the best team's doing it?
I'm going to start, if you don't mind, with the end of the question about wheel force transducers and so on. Okay. If you want to buy wheel force transducer for a passenger car today, we are speaking about anywhere between $50,000 and $80,000 for one wheel. Okay. Well, guess what? You do have Formula student team who are using wheel force transducer and slip angle sensor. They don't pay for it. Let me tell you a story. Sorry, Chris, I'm going to answer your question directly. I will. But I want to tell you that story because that's very, very interesting. There is one company in the world doing a slip angle sensor, Kistler. I became a friend of them. We are a beta tester of their new software and so on. And one day in Michigan, a guy said, if you want, I can give during your seminar a presentation about slip angle sensor. And he came. We had 85 students from 34 different teams. And at the end of this presentation, the guy from Kistler said, if you want 2 slip angle sensor free of charge from us, you can have it. But, he said, don't play with me, give me. I want a plan. I want a report. I want you to tell me what you don't understand. Tell me what is missing in our help file. And you know what? These people are looking for this kind. The best beta tester are the people who never used it before. And you know what? Only 2 teams said we will do it. And 1 team gave up in the middle. And at the end, only 1 team out of 34 took the offer. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that there are sophisticated sensors which are practically impossible to buy for a Formula student team unless you have them free of charge because you make a collaboration with it. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, you don't need wheel force transducers, especially on a Formula student team. You can put strain gauge on the top wishbone, bottom wishbone, the push rod, and the toe link. And if you know a little bit the movement, because a force like this or force like that is not the same force at the tire, it's a 6-component force with the 6 forces, compression or tension in each of the leg of the wishbone. You can reconstitute the forces and the moment of the tire. Be careful about strain gauge, temperature compensation, and things like that. Okay. Now, I forgot. What was the beginning of your question?
Presenting the suspension design.
Okay. Well, number 1, you need to start with the tire. I mean, I'm not in love with tires more than kinematic or damping or whatever, but everything about performance, stability, control, and driver feedback is happening in these 4 contact patches there. Okay. So you need to decide which tire you want. You need to design your criteria. Okay. Price is one, accessibility. You have a team in India. They have a tire manufacturer in India which give them the tire free of charge, where you take double price for importation taxes. These people don't have Hoosier's tires very, very often. So that is a good explanation. You choose the tire you can afford. But anyway, so you need to look at grip, camber sensitivity, pressure sensitivity, temperature sensitivity. It's going to give you an idea of what the, sorry, I need a little bit of a drink here. What the sensitivity, the zone of temperature in which your tire operate the best. What's the zone of ideal camber for braking, acceleration, and for cornering. So all these studies can be done, and then you can decide, price being one, but why you prefer to have the 10 and 13 inches, or within the 10-inch, which tire you want to use, which compound you want to use, and why. From there, once you know your slip angle and your camber sensitivity, you can design your suspension camber change. You can design your Ackermann. You can decide what's the initial toe in and toe out that you need. So you need to start with that. Okay. So you go from the tire towards the chassis, and the people from the chassis, they go towards the tire. And where do they meet? At the pickup point of the wishbone on the chassis. Because the guy who in charge of the ergonomics and look at the template doesn't care how much caster you have. And the guy designing the upright doesn't care where the pedal box is. But they will meet. And where do they meet? It's at the pickup point of the inboard suspension. So you start with the tire, which will decide mostly your kinematic. And then you have, of course, things like packaging and reliability, which means durability, which means calculating the force. One of the things that Pat Clark has wrote so many good paper on that, Pat Corners, most of the time published by Formula Student Germany, about the load path. The load path, okay? There are some very simple simulation. Okay, my car is, okay, I'm going to take a simple example. My car is 200 kilo, okay? I'm braking with, let's say, 1.5 G, okay? So 3,000 Newton, okay? And 3,000 Newton, I'm going to have 2/3 on the front, 1/3 on the rear. That means that you have 1,000 Newton braking on the left front and right front, and 500 Newton left rear, right rear. Show me the XYZ force at all pickup point on the upright and on the chassis, and show me what's the linkage, compression, or tension, okay? Do that for the acceleration. Do that for the cornering. And you can calculate 7, 10 different, well, let's say 15, braking and cornering, braking and acceleration, pure cornering, skid pad, and so on. And you can calculate the load path and calculate, because the guy who designed the upright and the guy who designed the chassis needs to have this input at the forces at the pickup point. You know? And the goal is not only to the force, sometimes you can distribute the shape of your wishbone, so you distribute the force, and for the same force at the tire, you have different, less force at the pickup point on the chassis. Okay, so you go from the tire, you design your suspension kinematic, and then you calculate your load path. If you cannot do that, these three things properly, you're already going to have a good thing. Now, after that, there is only one way you're going to decide things like anti-squat, anti-dive, roll center position and roll center movement, and bump steer and motion ratio and things like that. It's with a transient simulation. You need to have a transient simulation. I have to say that you'll ask me a little bit of a question like, what's the meaning of the world, you know? I mean, it's a big question. It's a very useful and valid question, but the thing is so complicated that I cannot give an answer. In a question like that would take me 3 hours in the seminar I teach. So it's not boom easy, but start with the tire, that's for sure.
Nice. No, I think that's totally fair. So I'll end with a couple more questions, just kind of higher level stuff. So we had one student asking, so what has been your favorite traits in Formula student leaders? And he's asking because he's leading a younger team and trying to change how they've been performing lately.
You know what? I have a few gods in my life, engineering gods. Roger Penske, Hugues de Schonack, the boss of Oreca, who was my best boss, by the way. And my preferred one is Gianpaolo Dallara. Gianpaolo has 60 years plus of experience in racing, and everything he touches, he makes it work. And these people have two trends in their character, which are apparently opposite, but they married very well. And I find the same trend in the best Formula student team and team leader: humility and ambition. Ambition and humility, that's the two things. When the guy measure the path that they still, at the mountain that they still have to climb to be successful, they are ambitious, but they're also realistic. They are humble. They understand what the problems are. Good team leader, you know, there is not a perfect answer there, because a good team leader in team A is not a good team leader in team B. It depends so many people. There are some teams who work well with a little dictator there, you know, and there are some teams who are extremely democratic and very good about how to share information and make common decision and common accepted. You have two kinds of leader, actually. You have the people who make things happen, and you are the people who inspire. I'm more the second one, I have to say. I'm a decent manager in my company, but I know people who would do a better job than me. The best one are the one who are having both, of course, who are able to as well. But first of all, a good leader is somebody who can listen. That's it. You need to listen. A good leader is somebody who is making decision. There is a very good book of Colin Powell, who was, basically the Secretary of Defense, the Ministry of the Army. I don't know, you say that in the United States. And he said, no matter what, when you're in a battlefield, 40% of the time you're going to take the wrong decision, because you never know exactly what your enemy is going to do. But the worst decision that you can make is not to make a decision. And you wait, and then and you kill yourself. So at a certain time, you have to listen as a manager. You have to weigh the opinion of everybody. And at a certain time, you have to make a decision. And being a good leader is not necessarily being in a contest of popularity. You're going to have people, how are you going to manage stress? And every team is very different on this point of view. I mean, you take a couple, one man and one lady, one man and that woman work perfectly together. You would have put that man with another woman, it wouldn't have worked, or vice versa. Or they were not able to adapt. Oh my God. And it's another question like, what's the meaning of the world and of life?
But I think your answer was awesome, Claude. I mean, ambition, humility, being able to listen, adapt to your own team. I mean, I think, yeah, it's hard. You could make a list of a million, but a couple of the key things at the top, I think you hit them well.
One thing I can tell you is this. I'm going to go back in the success of evolution. I remember in 2006, Stuttgart was at that time already a very good team. I heard about them, but I never saw the car. So I went in UK and I hid my design judge label, so they didn't see who I was. And I look at the car, and I look at everything on the car, and there was nothing special about the car. The only thing special is that they had cast aluminum upright, cast, not machine, because they had a good sponsor who was doing it. But the rest of the car was very, very basic. So I look at them and said, so I introduced myself and said, no, I have a question here. What makes you a successful team? And the answer was in 3 parts, and it was spot on. And he said, to finish first, you must first finish. So reliability is indispensable. So let's go backward in time. You are not going to be reliability unless you test. You must test. You have Formula One team. We have more experience and money and than you can even imagine, and they go on track and they still break things. So who the heck do you think you are that you are going to come on the track and your car is going to be reliable, spot on first time? So you need to test, but to test you need to have the car finished on time, and to have your car finished on time, each parts need to be finished on time. So we are the 22nd of February. Okay, you told me that the 28th of February, the pedal box will be finished. Yeah, but if I work on my FEA, I can make it stiffer and lighter. I don't care. I want to need it. You mean the whole car will not go on track because your bloody pedal box is not finished? So thinking. Let's go back in the chronological line, finishing each part on time. And that's where you need either a little dictator, or you need to have a conscious and agreed effort, finishing the car, testing, having reliability. Then you can have a chance to perform well.
Nice. So we'll end with this one question. There's a few more specific questions, but I'll send those to you after, and maybe we can post the answer to those just on the Facebook advertisement for it. But one more high level. Someone asked if there was anything you could change about the Formula Student Design event. Is there one or two things that you would like to see changed about it, or ways to make it better?
Well, first of all, I've been in design more than 20 years. And I have to humbly say that the average of the team know way much more and way better than me when I design my own race cars, the thesis of my engineering degree. So we are moving in the right direction, I have to say. I have to say also that at that time I was spending hours and hours in the library finding information where for the moment, thanks to Google, you can find everything quickly. But that's not a good enough excuse. The kids are doing well. It's actually scary also because a new team, I mean, in the late 80s or 90s, at the beginning of the Formula Student story, you could be a new team and maybe winning the first year. That's absolutely not possible anymore. I mean, you need to have an incredible luck. You have to understand that to be a good Formula Student team, it's going to be a five years project. That means that if you are working on this car, your team could win Formula Student when you already have graduated. So you need to have some humility and some devotion to a certain extent. So what I'm trying to say is that the readiness that you need is going to have to be is exponential. I mean, the knowledge and the challenge is higher and higher. And I have, I'm very critical, but I have the highest respect for the majority of Formula Student. What could improve in Formula Student? Well, the number one thing, and it's impossible, is to have more time per students. Sometimes you have crappy team and crappy car, and the guys admit it. And instead of pushing them down, what I do is that I modify. This design is becoming a training session. And look, I'm going to give you 25 points out of 150 for the sake of thank you for coming. But instead of pushing you down, let me give you a few things that you can do. That's rare, but it's the best of the time we can use. What I regret is that it's only 1 hour. It's only one. It's not enough time. It's unfair to start to give teams a quote on only 1 hour when the guys have been working the tushy off for nearly 1 year on this. It's nearly unfair. That's the reason why you need to be organized and explicit and expose your strengths and weaknesses in a very articulate way in a minimum of time so that you can give the best information so that you can defend yourself the best. I have to say that I have been more proficient and helping and useful and satisfied when I speak for 3 hours in a team in the paddock than during the 1 hour of well, it's not even 1 hour. It's 1 hour there, but there is about 40 to 45 minutes of Q&A and 15 minutes where the judge congregate and decide the numbers, the point that they give you. That's my regret, is that we don't have enough time. That's the problem there. That's what it is.
It's life, isn't it, though, in general with things, huh?
No, what would I change? A little bit, but that's on the organizer side. Maybe, sometimes it's a little bit too nosy and too crowdy. We should have more spaces between the team. But, look, Formula Student, the kids are sometimes putting themselves too much pressure on them, and they forgot to have fun. Chris, I'm going to take a little bit of height here and being philosophical, but okay, you have 100 team in a Formula Student, competition, and you are going to have only one winner. It's a fact. Does that mean that you have 99 losers? No, absolutely not. You have a few people, sometimes they shouldn't be there and they don't want to be there. That's rare. That's like 2%. But the majority of the people, they are there to learn. And I have to tell you, in my company, I've ex-Formula, except one guy, all the employees are ex-Formula Student kids. And some of them came from bad team. Okay, I mean, they were not winner in Formula Student, but they had a drive. I have hired people. Look, I'm going to tell you a story. I had an intern at Optimum G. I offered him a job, but he's from France. And unfortunately, his mother was dying from a cancer. So he decided to go back to France and stay there. And he's still a good friend of mine. He was a C- student. He was part of a master class that I gave in a French university. He was a C- student. He's the kind of guy who believed that the more you load the tire, the more coefficient of friction you have. You know, I mean, like, whoa, we are starting from the very basic. But you know what? He was a C- student, but he had an A+ attitude. And then he climbed the ladder. Let me tell you where the guy is 10 years later. He's in the middle of a triangle at Ferrari Formula One, and he's the data coach of the drivers. So you look at the data on track and on the simulator and advise the driver about their driving style. And he came from and I'm polite, a shitty team in Formula Student. But, you know, and it's all about attitude. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, you would like to win. But, you know, I'm going to tell you a story. You win Formula Student and you celebrate and you scream, okay? And you want picture of this, okay? And you're going to have a picture on your desk here with you, a Formula Student. And then life goes on. You have a job. And then you come real life. You get married. You have a kid. And one day you become a little bit more money and you buy a home or you change the apartment. So you pack the stuff in a box, and that box will stay in the garage for years, you know, and that's it. But you know what you're going to learn is not about role center. In Formula Student, what you're going to learn is leadership. And God knows we need leaders in this world, not only in this country, but in this world. You're going to learn how to deal with stress situation, how to deliver on time and on target, how to manage conflict, how to organize your life, and how to have fun. And sometimes kids are making way too much pressure on themselves, way too much. Let me tell you this. This is what I learned when I worked in Formula One. A team manager told me, don't make a strategy of objective. Make a strategy of challenge. We have to win. So if you win, that's normal. That's what we expect to do. If you don't, you are a failure. That's not it works. The works was, I bet you cannot do it. Enjoy what you do. Ride, you know, enjoy the ride and just don't put more pressure. What count is the friendship you create, the emotion you live, the success and the failure. You cry and you celebrate together. This is what the real Formula Student is about. It's not about chassis torsion, stiffness, slip angle, or your inertia, I can tell you.
That's awesome, Claude. Hey, Claude, I want to thank you for this awesome hour and a half. It'll be up on YouTube, everyone. So if you want to share it with other members of your team so they can see, I think we covered a lot from technical to I think some just, you know, great how do you approach life and Formula Student. I also want to thank TJ Keon. He's the one who works at SAE SoCal and produced all of this. And so if anyone out there is looking for someone to produce some stuff, he's amazing. So reach out to us. We'll try and connect you. And with that, we want to say any last words, Claude, before we end?
The last word is that can't wait to see you guys face to face. I can't wait to kick your butt, and I can't wait to tap your shoulder and shake your hands to congratulate you. I'm missing this event. Virtual is good, but you know, you don't have the same pleasure, the same intensity, the same capability to share information. So let's get rid of this COVID stuff, and let's hope that very soon we're going to meet again each other. That's my number one wish today, that's for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Claude. Thanks for everyone for coming. And we'll probably do another one. SAE SoCal will do a couple events every year, so look out for the next one. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.